autism is like wearing glasses. You might need them forever, but it's just who you are. You don't cry when your kid needs glasses, right?
Welcome to the Autism Channel, where we journey with Carmen to raise autism awareness and move steps closer to inclusivity. Join us as we meet community members, share stories, and explore initiatives that make a real difference.
It's so great to be in Macau again, and I do see a lot of familiar faces in the audience. So it's almost like meeting new friends and also catching up with old friends. So I remember last time standing in front of you a year ago, introducing the platform that I launched called Autism, which aims to support parents who have children with autism in Asia. Now this year I'm back again, but in a slightly different light. Not so much as a founder, but as a parent. Now my son Vince, he's right there. He is Autism's Chief Inspiration Officer, and he's a driving force behind everything that we do. And the reason actually I stand in front of you today, I want to start off by saying this though. I do not have the answers to everything. I'm not an expert, and I'm not a professional. There are plenty of experts here in this room. Like many of you guys here, I am a parent. A parent learning every day how to better support my child. A parent learning how to navigate the challenges of SEM parenting and learning how to stay positive in midst of this all. Every family's journey with autism is unique. Now, some of you guys are much further along than I am, and you guys possess that experience and the wisdom that I deeply admire and respect. Others with younger children may have smaller kids that are actually worried about, and I do remember that fear and anxiety back in the day when Vince was first diagnosed. Now, wherever we are on this journey, I think what unites us today is our love for our kids and our commitment to ensure that they're thriving, not just surviving, but thriving in this world. But let's be honest, this journey is actually not simple, huh? When Vince was first diagnosed at the age of 3, his symptoms were so textbook pronounced that we actually pretty much checked every checkbox from the red flag checklist. Lack of speech, no eye contact, no pointing, spinning, repetitive playing with toys. And back then I really didn't know what ASD was. I mean, the closest connection I could make was Dustin Hoffman in Rain Man. And I remember taking him to see an assessment expert. And she told me right there and then, you need to get your child on support immediately because he has autism. And those words hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm usually not a crier, but the minute I left the office, I was already crying. I didn't know what ASD was, and I went home, and for 1 week I couldn't go to work. I just stayed home crying. I even had a hard time looking at my son, because when I looked at him, I would feel fear, worry, helplessness. And I kept asking myself this question: what did I do wrong? As Chinese people, we have extended families, right? So sometimes we get 1 or 2 uninvited comments from relatives like, did you eat something bad when you were pregnant? Or what were you doing before you were pregnant? And I just couldn't help but feel, as the mother who was carrying the child, it was my fault. And for a long time, I actually kept his diagnosis a secret. Not because I was ashamed of him, but because I was afraid that the world would start labeling and judging such a small boy. But over time, like many parents here in this room, I did what you guys did, which was to step up. So today I want to share with you 3 lessons I learned on this very humbling journey. And the first lesson, early acceptance. Sometimes the word acceptance can feel very heavy, as though we're resigning to some harsh reality in life. It feels like, we're defeated of some sorts, right? But for me, I feel like acceptance is about letting go of what you thought your child's life would be and meeting him or her at where they are. The minute we were carrying our child, we had the vision. This is how I would like him to lead his life, you know? And when that didn't happen, of course, we felt disappointed. So for me, I feel like the first lesson I learned is early acceptance. It's not about my vision. And if we were to speak Chinese in a way, you know, there's this basic Buddhist philosophy. It's called 放棄我執. Put down yourself, your ego, and to meet the child where he is. But as powerful as acceptance is, acceptance alone is not enough. Which brings me to my second lesson I learned, the importance of early intervention. Now, I shared with you before, right? When Vince was diagnosed, you know, the first thing the assessment professional said to me was, get him on support immediately. You know, I was a mess. I cried for a week. I had a hard time accepting everything. But eventually I did take her advice. For 8 years, therapy became our life. Early mornings, afternoons. There was a point when, you know, we got asked to leave one school and there was no school wanting to admit us, so we had no school. And so therapy was his full-time job. It wasn't easy because he was just 3 years old and 8 years of therapy. And it was hard for Vince, but I felt like it was really hard for me as well, you know, because our schedules revolved around therapy. You know, when he was young, most of his birthdays were spent at the center. Like I would just bring a cake over and would just sing him a song. Of course, I would feel tremendous mother's guilt. And sometimes I had a lot of conflict and friction with my own family asking me, why is therapy even important? You know, back in our generation, we had none of this. You guys are making up all these conditions nowadays, dyslexia, ADHD, ASD. You know, it didn't exist in our generation. So I don't understand, Carmen, why you're, you know, giving up on family gathering opportunities and things like that just to attend therapy. So for a long time, I started questioning myself, am I actually doing the right thing? And also, therapy is very expensive. I always joke, I have one child, it feels like I have 4. It's very, very expensive in Asia, and insurance does not cover private therapy. Sometimes I would ask myself, are all these sacrifices worth it? But when I watch Vince overcome challenge after challenge, from checking every box on the ASD checklist to who he is today, I will say with absolute certainty that early intervention was the single most important step that we took together. Now, early intervention is not about fixing the autism. For me, it's really about giving our children the tools to unlock their fullest potential, the tools to connect with a world that sometimes I feel like it's not built with them in mind. And for me, early intervention works. So this is my second lesson. The third lesson that I've learned is the power of supporting community. You know, people ask me what's the hardest part about the journey. I would say, yes, the acceptance was hard. The early intervention was very hard. But the hardest part for a parent is the loneliness. You know, autism is complex. And unless you're actually living very close to it, it is very hard for people to understand what you're going through and to give you the support that you deserve. You know, I struggle to find support, even from those closest to me. And I do think sometimes seeking help from the older generation is especially difficult. And that is why we created Autism. You know, sometimes I refer autism as a platform. But to me, it holds greater significance than that. It is a community. It's a place where parents can connect with reliable resources, connect with expert guidance, and connect with each other. Now, we launched last year, and since our launch, we have 20,000 families join us already, and we're only getting started. So this is really exciting for me. This year, I want to quickly talk about 2 new features that we're actually launching. So you see, we're actually launching the stage 2 with a community feature. We have Expert Hub and Parents Forum. Now, the Expert Hub will provide parents with access to professional guidance. So what you can do is that you can create a login, ask a question about your child revolving around the topic of ASD, And we have an amazing panel of experts. Actually, some of them are even here with us. We have Dr. Amber Perrimon, we have Gabriel, my dear from Nesbitt Center. They're so kindly, they will be contributing their time to contribute to the platform. So experts will be providing guidance. Now, I need to say, this is not a diagnosis, this is guidance. And the answers will be available for all parents to see in bilingual format. The next one is the Parents Forum, which is pretty much a space designed just for parents. A place to share, ask, and support each other, because no parent should ever be alone on this journey. Now, both of these features will be available in October. With the Expert Hub, it will be by invitation only at the earlier stage. So please get in touch with me if you would like to have a login. It's free of charge. So please reach out. And I do have a QR code in the end that you can actually scan and provide us with your contact. I can stand here and talk about my journey for on and on and on. But I do think it's most important that you hear it from the person who has inspired me the most, the young man who's taught me about motherhood, and everything else. So I would like to have my son, Vince, join us on stage.
Hi everyone, my name is Vincent and I am 14 years old, and I told Mommy I wanted to be here today to share about my story. I was diagnosed with autism when I was 3. Back then, I didn't speak and I didn't care about talking. I didn't look at people and I'd vomit when I'd try new food. Mommy told me she was worried about me every day. Therapy was my life. For 8 years, I went to therapy every day, early mornings, afternoons, even after school. It was like having a full-time job. School wasn't easy. I got bullied. Kids call me names like failure or a bad boy. I didn't know what to say, so I'd get angry and chase them. Schools would call Mommy all the time. But things got better. I switched schools, and even though I still have challenges, I've learned a lot about myself. One of the hardest things for me is making friends. Sometimes I feel like people don't understand me. Grades stress me out too, but I'm learning to try harder and care about my behavior. I do my best even if it's not perfect. In 2023, I told Mommy I think we should help other people with autism. Did you know that's how autism started? Do you know that 1 in 31 people have autism? And here's what I want to share with you. Autism isn't a disability, it's a different ability. Autism is like wearing glasses. You might need them forever, but it's just who you are. You don't cry when your kid needs glasses, right? So parents, don't cry because your kid has autism. We need support, not sympathy. Therapy helped me a lot. Even though I hated it when I was young, looking back, I can see how much it helped me grow. Thank you, everyone.
So today, we've shared our journey with you because we believe in the power of early acceptance, the importance of early intervention, and of course, community support. Thank you so much. That was good.
Thank you, Dr. Amber.
Thank you.
Thank you.